Hi guys, what's up, what's down, what's sideways? James here for Chronic Fatigue Syndrome, my friend, my enemy, my constant companion, day 70. What am I going to talk about today? When I act like I've got chronic fatigue syndrome. So, I don't share a lot about what goes on with me necessarily with chronic fatigue syndrome and stuff like that. However, some people that I interact with have to know about it for XYZ reasons. Family know that I've got it, obviously, like my close family, like my parents, my brothers, they know I've got it. So there are some people that have to know about it, some people that know about it, and some people I share it with. So as I've said before, I'm not a lazy person. If I was a lazy person, then this most probably would suit me. Can't really see a lazy person really wanting to feel this awful, but you know what I mean. It's if you don't want to do much with your life, then it will help you. It will help you get there. So sometimes the people that I interact with that have to know that I've got chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia syndrome, so they theoretically know what it is that one has to deal with. They don't necessarily understand it, but they know theoretically what you have to deal with. And see, the thing is, sometimes I get people generalize things with me. So there are a lot of lazy people out there. There are a lot of people who lack self-discipline, and there are a lot of people who are aware of me, and there are a lot of people who will try and get out of doing work, and so they are the loudest most times when we have to deal with them. They're the loudest in that, they always require someone else to motivate them, or they slack off, that kind of thing. So they act suboptimally. And so I understand that because those people are the loudest, and therefore when you deal with them on a regular basis, you kind of start looking at other people the same way. But I'm not one of those people, and when stuff happens and I'm treated like one of those people, it ruffles my feathers a little bit. So sometimes when I act as though I've got chronic fatigue syndrome, and that could be, I'm not necessarily talking about being stuck in bed or something like that, but there are days when I am just so full of nope that I won't do anything outwardly productive. I'll watch like a video series, or I'll read, or I'll write, or I might play a strategy game, or I won't do anything outwardly productive. I just pretty much nope. Now I don't do it very often, but occasionally I do it either because of how my illness is that day, or because of how I'm up here. Because if it's not a struggle with your body, it's a struggle with your mind, and when they're both struggling, when you're struggling with both of them, it's just nope. And so sometimes I won't do anything outwardly considered productive. I don't do anything self-destructive. I just won't do I just might not do something that others consider such a simple thing. And you can see people they don't know how to take it, and then they'll start treating me a certain way. So sometimes, in the last couple of days, I've had some extra hours that I could have done extra stuff with, that I would have loved to have done extra stuff with. I actually can't remember what I did yesterday too well. I remember bits of it, and today was kind of a slight write-off for productivity outwardly, but I've been doing stuff up here. So days when I don't physically or visually do anything outwardly productive, I'm usually plotting and planning in my head, and then I'll go and and put it into effect. And it's like, James, where'd that come from? Well, that day that I did nothing, I planned all this, and then I can just go and do it. Um, so the last 2 days I've done visually nothing very productive. With the amount of time that I've had. So I have done productive things. I've taken private classes. I've taught some black belts. Um, I've done little business things here and there. I've made little connections here, and I've done little things that are productive, but nowhere near to the level that I am capable of or might usually do. So there is a task at the moment that I am being requested to do on two sides. I'm being vague here, deliberately and slightly cryptic, but there's a task that I have to do, and I'm being approached on two sides with it. And today, I've had like a phone call over it, and a couple of discussions over it. Now these people know I've got chronic fatigue syndrome. They know, theoretically, I'm not a lazy person. And yes, it might seem easy to them at the time, but to me, for these last 2 days, it just wasn't on my to-do list. There's no way I was going to get on my to-do list. It might later in the next hour. I still got some of day 70 to go, but it just wasn't on my to-do list. I opted to do other things. And you can see this kind of disconnect in the way they're talking with me and that, because there's this kind of like, well, James is usually will get stuff done, but he's not doing this thing, and it's so easy. He should be able to do that so easy, but he's not doing it, rah, rah. And it's interesting to watch that disconnect when James is like, no, today I'm no, just no. So it throws people off when I act like I've got chronic fatigue syndrome, because it's not something that I usually do. And then I can get the other kind of like, oh, James, you've got to do this because of blah. It's like, yeah, I'm so well aware of it. Oh, James, you've got to do this because, this is going to be good for you. And I'm like, yeah, I am so well aware of it. It's, you're not helping to motivate me. You are increasing the weight of what is already there. For whatever reason, I am not doing that thing right now, and we both have to deal with it. I understand that there are consequences. I understand all too well everything related to it. I am not doing it. Don't treat me like someone who is blasé with this or complacent, or like, I understand that there are consequences and I will deal with the consequences, but it is quite potentially more harmful for me to push myself right now than the consequences of what you're talking about. So you see this disconnect with people, and they're trying to like motivate me or like explain why it's so important, and it's already understood. It's already, I get it. I'm 3 steps ahead of you. I know what me not doing this is going to cause. I know why I need to do it. I know the steps after it. I am ahead of you on it. However, right now, I've got chronic fatigue syndrome, and this is how I'm going to respond to that stimulus these 2 days. That I have put aside these 2 days to be like this. And tomorrow, regardless of how I am, I will suddenly become visually, visually productive in your eyes. Okay, but for these 2 days, meh. And so it just throws people off when James acts like he's got chronic fatigue syndrome, and it's very odd. And sometimes if I was feeling worse, I could feel a bit more ruffled feathers towards it, because it's not my character. Like, Obviously, if I'm not doing a thing, it's got a reason. And yes, you can like talk about it and find out, and maybe I just do need a little pep. Sometimes we all do at some point, but generally that's not the case. I don't rely on I don't rely on that per se. It's nice though. It makes the world so much easier when you've got something to look forward to, and a person in your life that takes the edge off that lonely or discomfort edge of your chronic fatigue syndrome. It is awesome. Not like if you ever find that person, you be all manner of good things. So I just wanted to share that, kind of a little bit of a rant, but it is easy for people to forget that you got chronic fatigue syndrome, especially if you're active in their eyes and you don't do stuff. But also, it's 8:30 now on day 70. In the next half hour, I might get everything that they wanted done plus more, because I've had time to think about it and process and plan. So just because I'm not outwardly productive doesn't mean that I'm not preparing for it in some way. And at the same time, I'm not slacking off. I'm just took a couple of days. Do I like it? Not really. Did I need to? Most likely. So thank you very much for letting me share with you day 70. If you've got any questions or like to introduce yourself, leave a comment below. I will respond. If you like what we're seeing, like, share, subscribe, hit the little notification button, and thank you very much for letting me share with you day 70, when James acts like he's got chronic fatigue syndrome.